Hello everyone, welcome to another video. Today we will diagnose some of the clicking noise I've been getting on the bike. I went out for an early ride. I have been having these issues for a week or so, and it has happened before. 1 year back I did hear this issue, so I'll be quiet now, let you hear the noise. So I'm really not sure what this noise is about. I believe it's the bottom bracket, but when I ride it, it seems that it's coming from the front. So this will be a bit detailed video on how the diagnosis goes. So you can follow through. It will be a 15-minute video, but if you have the tools, you can do it with me. So we'll kick off with first to check the wheels. So why I'm doing this is a carbon wheel, carbon spoke. There is a chance that the spokes usually can create some noise, and I have heard the winspace hypers having this issue before. We also checked the through axle. I'm giving a quick once over on the wheels, checking the spoke tension with hand. I don't have a spoke tensioner or anything, just moving it around, tapping it. We expect the noise from all the spokes to be same on each side. Inspecting the tires just in case. This is the tire wear indicator. Usually the tire needs to be seen, but what I did notice is during inspection the tire is getting worn out a bit, so I can already see on the sides due to the salt. I can see the wear on the tire there. So the wheel looks okay. I even removed the hubcap. I still see the grease. There is no grit at all inside. It's working perfectly fine. Seems to be very smooth as well. We will move to the bottom bracket area. So I'm using this spark tool cap remover. I noticed that the cap was loose. Again, this will not ideally cause any issues because the two bolts, if they are tight, that should be fine, but still this is the one which holds the tension. But I use the spark tool hex wrench to first loosen it up a bit, and then use the handled hex wrench to open up the bolts. So whenever you are using such ball at the end, just make sure that you loosen it up first before you use this, otherwise the bolts can get the bolts thread can go, so just be careful about it. I'll just zoom out, just loosen this up. And the same tool which we used to remove the hubcap, you can use it to remove the lock there and just pull it out. So it's straightforward, and already you can see how much grit is there. So in my hands I could literally feel sand. I'm thinking is the reason could be that I grease it too much maybe. So the bottom bracket definitely had too much grit in it. So it seems like needs a cleanup. So what we'll do, we'll disengage the chain tensioner pulley a bit, and slowly with the rubber hammer pull the drive side out. I'll show you both drive side and non-drive side as well. Now the drive side, you can see, oh my god, there's too much grit as well. Again, I'm thinking because the grit has just got stuck to the grease I put there, so maybe I'll use a different grease this time. Now for the cleaning part, we'll just speed through. So I'm just using a tissue here, but need to get into that groove to clean up all the grit inside. Slowly and steadily. It takes a bit of, you can see the grime there zoomed in. So you can also take help of a screwdriver if you have a very thin one. But inside you can see there's already grease. So inside is not the issue. That's the reason I'm not removing this bottom bracket to inspect as well. So I just cleaned it, topped the screws just in case, and the non-drive side is done. We'll just clean up the non-drive crank as well, because sometimes this friction can cause those noise, but again, I'm not really sure if this is the cause, but best to do it. Even the teeth inside. Now this is the drive side. Drive side had more grit and mud. It's kind of expected because you do have chain, lot of moving parts near this. So I'll just speed this up. I'll show you how I did it. Again, this is not a fully invasive cleanup because it's written on the bottom bracket that you should not remove the seal cups and do anything. So it's kind of a use and throw thing. That's the reason I haven't invested in a ceramic bottom bracket or anything. I think ceramic you can service it, but with this grit I'm not sure how long it's gonna survive. So again, I could feel it's a bit rough. I'll try to put up a chart here to show when each of my parts, how long it's been used for. Yeah, but I could feel that it's rough. Moving to the front, we will inspect two things. So there are two bearings here holding the fork. One of course near the bottom where your wheel sits, and one on the top. So usually the top should be fine. The bottom is where all the grit enters. So what I tried to do is I tried to remove these two bearings. It's smooth, by the way. I don't see any issue. It's very smooth, as you can see. But because when it comes to noise, you never know, is it the cables, what it is. But usually I don't expect it to be the cable, because I tried to remove the cable away when I ride and it's still, the noise was there. So I don't think that's the issue. So I just loosen up these two bolts here. These are the stem bolts. So first I'll loosen those and then loosen the top cap. So whenever you lose the top cap, make sure you hold on to the fork. Even on the sides I'm holding on to the fork, because yeah, these are expensive, so you don't want to damage the carbon forks in any way. So we'll remove the top cap, and I could see the top cap was also loose. Again, I'm not sure if this caused any cracking noise. I'm not gonna remove the whole fork, but this is just a way to show how quickly you can service it. Just the bearings at least, because those are the ones which take the beatings the most. But it will need a fork inspection maybe next year. So I'll remove the stem. I have some spacers here. Those are the carbon spacers which came with the bike, and I'll just hit on the top, push all the cables in so that I get some leeway to get the bearing out. So what I did is I just gave a tap on the top, and I could see the fork drop down a bit. Here you can see the grit on the bottom bearing side. So again, I had applied grease all over here, but not too much as I remember. So again, I'll just take a cloth. I could really feel the fine grits inside, so I just cleaned it up thoroughly. I just checked the top bearing, it had grease in it. There is no grit at all on the top. I don't expect it to be there, but again, just to make sure I don't have to do this again, I just quickly clean this up. So usually every 1,000 kilometer it does end up in this situation for me, because of the location I ride the bike on. It's usually highly sandy Not so much dust, but highly sandy construction sites, all those things regularly. So best to keep everything in top notch. That's why I am being a bit more thorough here. So usually you could remove the bar tape, loosen your brake levers and stuff like that, so that the cables can go in more and you get more space there to do the bearing cleanup. But again, I just want to try it out first of all. What is the issue, whether this will help. I'll just put the spaces back in and just slowly move it to the left and right so that it slots back in. Now just put some grease on the screw, because the top cap screw, right, that takes the brunt of the rain washing whenever you do the wash. So it's best to make sure everything is clean. Again, I am not tightening it too much. This is just to see how the bearings play out. Is there any cracking noise? I didn't hear anything. So at the end, what we'll do is we'll put the wheel on and tighten up all the bolts. We want to clean up this through axle area as well. We'll just put the non-drive side back on. You can see I'm applying a very thin grease this time, and I'm not applying on the sides. It's just on the inside, on the drive and non-drive side. Just hit it back in. Just loosen the tension a bit so that the chain goes on in the ring, and hit it back in. It should be fine. Go to the non-drive side, same process. The tensioning cap also I've cleaned a bit. I usually apply some grease. Ain't no harm in applying grease, but maybe I'm thinking too much of grease is also not too good, I guess. So I'm just applying very thin grease. Usually they don't recommend applying grease on these cap, if I remember correctly, but well, there's no harm in doing it, I see. So let's thread it a bit with hand. Now use the tensioning cap. So what I usually you can remove the chain so that you can feel how free it is, but yeah, I've been using this bike a lot, so I can feel in hand how loose or tight it should be. So quickly test, moving it back and forth. I can feel it smooth, no issues. It's very smooth, even with one finger, two fingers, it's easily moves. So that's what we expect to be. But usually what I do is I tighten it more and then loosen it a bit so that I know it's on the right space. I'll just put the lock back in. Now just move to the left and right just to see if there is any play after you tighten it. This kind of ensures everything is fine. Check the shifting. This is important before you ride it out. Anything you put back, just ensure it shifts back properly. Now to the front fork, again applying a bit of grease here. Very thin grease this time. Even to the skewer. Put it back on. And you will notice how the front bearings are. It's very smooth. It's already trying to rotate. Just torque everything to the setting. I'll put up a torque chart here as well. for this bike, you can see how freely the wheel moves. So this is how it should be. Now I put back the wheel on, right? So I'll check the top cap and tighten everything to spec. So I think it's 5 Newton meter on the carbon fork, so the stem, and top cap I'll just tighten it just so the handlebar doesn't feel too loose. I'm tightening the top cap now. There should be enough pressure, but not too much as well. I could feel it's a bit tight, so I will loosen it a bit. It's a bit tight here, so loosen a bit. So now it should be free. So again, I'll put it on the stand and I'll hold on the brakes now first, just to move it a bit front and back to see if there is any play, and later I'll sit on the bike and check it as well. We'll just torque everything to spec, check if handlebar is straight or not. I will put it back on stand for this. You can see how freely it's moving, so no issues there. Even with one finger it should move, should be that smooth. So feel looks good, don't see any issue here. So hopefully you like this. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll give the feedback on the next video.